You have these babies and they come into your life and they change your life and you're so proud of them and you love them so much. You want everything. You want the best for them. And so you apply that to the soccer field. You try to open doors for them. You try to make things easy for them and support them. And then you feel all of these other emotions that are wrapped up in watching your kid try to navigate. It becomes very real and you try to protect them as much as possible. But sometimes, you may go overboard. You're doing harm versus helping. Navigating their desires and where they see themselves going in sports is sometimes very muddy with our own emotions and how we see things playing out and what our hopes and dreams are for them.
9-year-old year, made the Little League All-Star team, and we had quite a bit of success and ended up winning the state championship. And I remember the energy of the parents in the stands and how serious things got. And I remember our coach at the time telling us that this was a business trip.
I was speaking at the MLS Rookie Symposium, and I asked the guys in the room, there's about 70 or 80 rookies in the room, and I said, how many of you guys can remember, think back, when did it switch from play to work? And everybody started thinking, and I asked the guy in the front row, who was a player with the LA Galaxy, and he said, about 6. Yeah. And I asked the guy next to him, he said, about 7.
Underneath the surface was starting to build a pressure that I learned how to avoid, and anxiety that I wasn't able to articulate. That's what I was experiencing.
Well, the developmental years of a child are from ages 0 to 10. And in those years, basically the main task that a kid has is to build their identity, their sense of self, who I am. This is the question they're trying to answer. And that is based primarily on the feedback of the ones that are their primary caregivers, so mom and dad. And in those years, ideally, the way a kid's actually designed and constructed is that they essentially are asking this question subconsciously: am I safe? Am I valuable? Am I loved? Am I seen? Kids play. It's their very nature. It's a psycho-spiritual state, we call it, where they actually play by nature. You don't have to put a kid, like if you put a kid in a sandbox and you say play, they just play. And it's this creative, free-form thing because there's nothing being earned in that space. That's the difference between play and work. Nothing's being earned. And the problem is that when we put them into the arena, we put them out in the arena and we give them this huge, strong feedback loop between everything they do. Pretty soon they start to realize that there is something they are earning out there. And it shifts from play to work. It's why it lacks creativity. It's why the joy starts to be taken away from them.
I remember picking up Emily from practice. First thing out of my mouth was, hey, how did practice go? And she wouldn't talk to me. And I finally teased it out, and it came out that I don't want to talk to you because you're going to yell at me. And it just kind of hit me like a punch in your stomach.
I started coaching. And over the years, I was getting frustrated in my coaching experience because I could see the emotional component of it. I just couldn't give these kids what they needed, and they weren't really getting better because most of them were wrestling with high levels of anxiety, and I started to observe that. And then I started meeting, I made a few friends that were playing professionally and started to notice their anxieties as well. And eventually, even in the players I was training, I would do private students, and I would just teach them skill sets and this kind of thing. And I started to notice the anxiety more and more. And eventually, I just said, you know what, I've got to shift my focus completely to this, because there's no point in me continuing to try to teach these kids how to play when they can't even enjoy themselves and they can't find the peace and the joy in the game. So I shifted completely over to that, and I started just changing my coaching tactics. I started changing the way I train people. And then a friend of mine who was a pro player, he said, hey man, what would we like to try to create some resources that actually can help people with this problem? And from that, all of this was born, 3 Athletics and Hero and all of that.
When I read Hero, I quickly realized it was originally written for soccer. And for me, my background being baseball, there was an easy correlation to what they were talking about in the experience of soccer into the experience of baseball. And as you look at the other sports that we all grew up playing, it's really across the board, where The parent-child relationship within any sport is an extremely difficult one to navigate for parents because they want to do the best by their kids. They want to give them all the opportunities to succeed in life, right? But for us, as a professional athlete who's gone through it and working with Seth and really being able to pull back the layers as to how difficult that relationship is to cultivate in a healthy way, and recognizing how many of my best friends growing up, even my own experiences with my parents, where it became very difficult to understand where the love was coming from and how I was going to receive that.
My own inner anxiety plays into how I experience a game. Becoming self-aware of that was the first step in changing how we were experiencing soccer and how our kids were experiencing soccer.
The whole goal behind 3A is to go out and raise awareness as to what is actually taking place in the culture of youth sports. And by raising that awareness, we give parents, we give coaches, and we give kids the ability to activate their true potential and go out and achieve things in the world with the understanding of what their foundational identity is outside of sports. It's so difficult for kids who have success at a young age to maintain that success, because at some point you're going to be questioning, you're going to experience imposter syndrome where you don't really believe you're that good. And so much of that stems from that identity of being a great baseball player, being one of the best on your 10-year-old team. And by the time you're 15 or 16, you're not really sure, am I that guy? Am I that girl?
"3A Athletics" is a three-pronged approach to the transformation of youth sports culture through awareness, activation, and achievement. And achievement being the result of the awareness and the activation. What we're trying to do is move into parent-coach education as a primary, and then youth sports education in every aspect possible, but starting with the foundations of their identity, with parent education, trying to help parents wake up. It's not just teaching them something, it's waking them up so they can see what the true priority in how we do this is. And it's as simple as like when a parent's in a car with their kid on the way home from practice, that is a pivotal moment. And if a parent's awake in that moment and aware of what their child is experiencing and aware of what that child really needs from them, they can begin to shift that culture. And 3A Athletics is designed, we're essentially trying to create resources, teaching, educating, partnering, trying to create resources that actually essentially can kind of get in the car with those parents afterwards and wake them up and help them actually respond, so that we can change the way the attitudes are on the sideline, the attitudes are in the classroom, the attitudes are in the car on the way home. That entire thing, that sports becomes a place where kids and parents can bond rather than this place that's constantly breaking that relationship. So 3A Athletics is designed to go to the heart of that in a way that's not really being done out there. There's parent education being done, but not parent transformation. And transformation is greater than education.
Baseball was always a safe space, at least I thought it was, and I thought it was where I could receive the unconditional love, the attention, the fame that comes with it. And I started to realize as I got older how much of my self-worth, how much of the love that I was seeking came from that experience of being a baseball player, from Little League to high school baseball, being one of the best players in the state. I always received that love through the game of baseball. And when that pivotal moment, as I mentioned, getting sent down, was the first time I started to question, am I really as good as everybody thinks I am? Am I really as valuable? Do the friends and family back home love me as much because now I'm playing in AAA and not in the big leagues? And as I've been able to reflect on that and understand how difficult it is when we are conditioned from such a young age to receive our love through the sports that we play, instead of receive the love unconditionally because of who we are.
Yeah, that should really teach us something. I mean, if is the goal of life to play professional sports, or is it to find joy peace, and excellence in everything we do. Not that we can't do those things and achieve those things, but what's the point? What's the goal? What do we leave behind? And that statement that Travis said, it really has something to do with that. That is a huge, huge truth being spoken to us in youth sports. So.